quarantine, school, and pods. I had a conversation with a peer of mine about all three of those topics that I want you all to check out. I think there's going to be a great value add. So tell me what you think. We wanted to come together and chat it up with you all about like this whole quarantine thing and the parenting that's going on, and now they're talking about creating little pods and things of that nature. And um, we actually have fielded some questions from people before we engaged here earlier this week. So we have some questions that we'll answer. Um, but if you have any questions that you wish to be addressed here, feel free to drop them in the comments. Um, I'll go ahead and say it. By no means are we experts. We're parents that have gone through this quarantine thing. Some of the stuff that we'll say, you may have already tried, and it was successful or it failed. Other stuff, maybe you haven't thought about trying it yet. So we're just here to have the conversation and hopefully, not hopefully, but have a civil conversation about parenting, quarantine, and what we can do about pods.
Yeah, let's just get right into it. Where do we start? I think I would just like to start with kind of like I don't know, maybe a pulse check. I can just share that I have, I'm a little anxious about this idea, about this school year being different than anything we've done before. Where I live in Gwinnett County, school is 100% digital. That decision was just made. And I have a kindergartner and an eighth grader this year. And then I also have a 3-year-old that'll be at home. So, yeah, I'm concerned about how to juggle all the balls. And yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So you've got older, you've got younger. What's the easiest part of this job, of the parenting job, knowing that you're about to face this whole teacher situation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a natural teacher. I really am a natural encourager,
Hmm.
enthusiastic, positive type of person. So, and I think in general, most of us parents are like doers. We get in there and get it done. So I know that whatever it takes, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna figure it out. I think
Yeah.
anxiety is like what it's gonna be like until we find that groove. But
Yeah.
I'm certain that I'm gonna figure it out. We're gonna get it.
Yeah. So in that last quarter of the 2019 school year, what was your house like? What was that dynamic like?
Um, it was a struggle with my oldest. Um, and I think the other struggle was, if I can just be specific, having all the teachers doing different things. And I want us to take a moment at some point during this conversation to just give it up for our teachers who had to
Yeah.
make that, just like
Yeah.
we've had that shift. So
Yeah.
I love teachers. Um, but it was difficult that we had one teacher that was using Teams. I had a teacher doing Google Meet. I had a teacher
Yeah.
that was on the portal. So there were a lot of different places to go for each class. It wasn't always clear what the assignments were. Some teachers were very consistent and very available. Some weren't.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
And you know what? What I will say though, just like the regular school year, when it came down to it, connecting with the teacher and talking to them is what made everything better. Like when I finally emailed one or two teachers and said, okay, I'm really confused. I can't tell if she really did this or she's telling me she did it. I'm looking at the updates. They don't seem to be updating. But every time I talked to a teacher and was able to get them on the phone or join a group session, it was clarified with no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we actually went through the experience of summer school,
Hmm.
and it was different than the fourth quarter of the 2019 school year. It was very, very fast paced, and the teachers were only in the office for 2 hours a day, like 10 to 12, which was so. Um, it was it was interesting. I'll say that. I don't expect this for us to experience this first quarter what we did over the summer, but they had some tools for the kids to use, right? The reason I'm bringing that up is because we actually had to contact the teacher, like you were saying. It's like we were trying to figure some things out, and so we contacted the teacher. And one of the things that I would encourage anybody that's got kids and you've got this school thing going on, and for whatever reason, reach out to the teachers, because it made a world of difference for us, for our children, when we did that. Because again, the teachers, they're doing what they know. They know how to teach. That's what they went to school for. They didn't go to school to know how to use Zoom and all this other stuff. So it's very new to them. Um, I would encourage you, one, to be patient with them, and two, make sure you stay engaged with your students' teachers. It'll help a lot.
Yeah, and Keith, what age are your kids?
I'm sorry. I've got a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. So one that's going in 10th and one that's going into the 8th grade.
Okay, so I'm just curious, do you have them with you when you talk to the teacher? Like when you're trying to figure it out and they can't seem to share or communicate effectively the status of things, is that something that worked for you?
So for my son, like he was doing a math class, right? And uh, he had a scheduled meeting with her, and I would sit in the room during the scheduled meeting. And I think we're going to hit on this a little bit later, but you know, just like me and most of the people I know, there's ADD involved, right? And so I would sit in the room with him because he would, find something bright and shiny to look at, because he might have been on Zoom, but he didn't have to show his screen, right? And so she didn't know if he was off playing Minecraft or or whatever, but
Right.
um, I would have to sit in the room with him, and sometimes I would make a comment, and she would know that I was kind of in there with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked that question because that's what I found that helped with my oldest daughter. When I would have her call into the office hours and be there with her. So
Hmm.
one of her teachers, her science teacher, would hold certain times of the day or the week that she would be available to answer questions about any assignments. The kids could talk to each other, and she would even have games that she had planned for them. And when I was like, what's up with this? How come this says 0? You're telling me you did it. Oh, you
Yeah.
didn't put the grade in yet. Oh, okay. When I join the call and I'm sitting right down with her, it gets cleared up real quick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where
Absolutely.
the child who's trying to get away with something or the teacher who hasn't fully explained something.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm glad we both had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we go any further, for those of you that know me, I want to introduce to y'all Caroline Colleen, and she is a life coach. We're both life coaches, and this is something that I've kind of coached people on the side about, just quarantine type stuff or whatever. Can you share some of your experiences as a life coach, things that you've shared? Because I know your sister circle probably blows you up for advice and everything like that, or coaching
Yes.
rather.
Yes, you know what? I have much more mommy experience than I have coaching experience, but I am absolutely a life coach. I've been introduced to this field and it is who I am. It is
Right.
my dream. And so that's one thing. And I really feel like my challenges, triumphs, struggles, joys as a mom make me certified to help people through it all. Not
Yeah.
with the answers and the right thing to do, but just to kind of figure out the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the perspective that I come from. And then I have three girls, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 13-year-old. And I'm also a divorced mom. And I actually split custody with my kid's father. So I do get breaks in between. And one reason why we talked about getting together, Keith, is that we have two different family situations.
Yeah.
And we still don't even speak to the family situations of a one parent home where that's the only parent who's doing everything.
Yeah.
Trying to work a full-time job and
Mm-hmm.
do digital learning or homeschooling.
Absolutely.
So that's just a little of my background.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. So let's talk about 2020. So what's your house going to look like? How will you? Because everybody's doing online now. I think it's most places at least in the southeast that I know of that they're doing, or southeast of the country. Um, how will you guys start your day? Like how will you rein in the nonsense of the of the summer, right?
Right. So I can tell you what I've kind of started doing now, and I do probably not very consistently, but I'm hoping to get more consistent with.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I've noticed, which has always been a difficult thing for me, I'm a complete creative, free spirit. So structure has always been like that thing that I'm like, oh, I'm not structured enough, I'm not consistent. But what I figured out is there's a structure and a consistency that works for me and makes sense for me. And then I also have 3 different kids with 3 different personalities. So one thing I do find is starting about the same time every day and with the same thing. So we actually do morning affirmations, which we always did on the way to school in the morning. And we might even do like a morning devotion, like a kids focused devotion. So I actually follow this channel on YouTube. It's called Sands Academy, SANDZ. And this will be great more so for elementary age kids. So, and one thing Keith and I talked about, which I think would be really useful, is if we could offer you all resources that we speak about while we're talking today. And then if anybody has anything to share in the chat, we're here, we're watching, we're listening. So this YouTube channel has a morning affirmation that my kids listen to every morning. And then usually after our morning affirmation or devotion, I'll kind of say, okay, y'all, tell me something that stood out to you, or which one do you remember the most? And so that's what we kind of talk about a little bit, or we might pray about it. And that's how we started our day. And what I love about that is I notice that those are things they'll say when they get frustrated. Or when I remind them, wait a minute, you can do anything. You are incredible. Like, they're like, oh yeah. So try to start with the same thing, same flow. Another thing, music. So I love music. Me and my kids love music. We love to dance. So we also have like a morning playlist, an evening playlist. We've been doing more evening walks. And some type of physical outlets. It really helps. And what I find with my oldest, though she doesn't feel like doing it, doesn't want to do it, every time we go, we have a great time. Every time. And I know for me, sometimes I struggle with the pushback and the attitude, but it's like, once we get out there, we're having a ball. The only other thing I wanted to share that I've started doing that I heard on a podcast is quiet time. So taking time to have a quiet time, and now all of my kids actually have their own quiet space that's separate from each other. I heard this on a podcast. There's this phenomenal friend of mine. Her name is Susan C. She has the Mentor for Moms podcast. I'll share that too. And one of the things that she always structured into her kids' day, she's a homeschooling mom of 6, is quiet time. And just like I was saying, the older kids resist it the most. We don't call it nap time because, oh, I'm too big for a nap. I don't want to take a nap. Okay, quiet time. And she said if they don't take a nap, they need to get away from their siblings to do what only they like to do. If it's writing, if it's reading, if it's drawing. And it's a great way, especially for those of us with multiple kids and larger families, that they get to find their own identity and space and peace. And one of the things she said was every single time her oldest one ends up falling asleep. But no, it's not nap time. So those are a couple of things, like I say, a little bit of routine, some music, some fun, and yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit on something when you said like morning affirmations, quiet time, that kind of type stuff. I think that is something that we're gonna have to incorporate as well, because in those affirmations and in that quiet time and in that devotion time comes, and I call it quicker character, right? Because in the society of ADHD, like even y'all out there watching, if you don't have ADHD, say it out there. I bet you nobody will comment. Like, sure, it's self-diagnosed, right? But the practice of quieting yourself, is probably one of the most difficult things to do in our society today, because everything is going so fast, especially here in Atlanta. Everything is really, really fast. And I think when we do take the time to practice quieting our mind or focusing on a specific thing, it could be like just a goal or something like that, you know, for your affirmations. Like one of your children might have done an affirmation about wanting to be a doctor or something like that, and you can quiet your mind to focus on that thing that you want. And I think that can be very powerful, especially if you're doing it consistently, right? So just think about your child thinking about this doctor that they want to be right before they're doing their schoolwork, and that's the purpose for doing this schoolwork.
Yeah.
And hopefully that kind of, resonates in them and gets them excited about stuff that they don't necessarily want to do. So, but yeah. Some of the things that I really thought a lot about was focus. It's really focus based, because I mean, from me on down, everybody's focus here is like, it can be limited. So I wrote down some things that I kind of do, that have or have not worked in my own home, and just for suggestions for you all out there. One of the things that I have to do is make sure we reduce the visual distractions. Again, when my son was on the Zoom meeting, even though it wasn't showing his face, he would find something in his room. He's got a specific space that he does his work, but he would find something else to do that was taking him away from what he needed to do. Make sure that the room is clean, because if you have things here and there, things can become a distraction. The computer screen, making sure that the computer screen, like if you're not able to stay with your child, make sure that screen is faced back to the door, so you can see what's going on. Make sure they're not playing Minecraft or whatever the game is that they might play instead of doing their work. Something that I do on the regular in our house for everybody is I do essential oils. You can get essential oils that help your focus. If you've never used essential oils, I recommend it even over the medication. So I know some people take it and hey, whatever floats your boat. But if you've never tried essential oils, I think that's something that you should try, and can probably see some great benefits from not just that, but just there's so much that you can do with those oils. Another thing is to take a walk around or stretch or something every 15, 20, 30 minutes, just to have a brain break, if you will. Another huge thing, my kids have whiteboards in their bedrooms. They're like 36 by 24, something like that. But I help them do their work with this whiteboard. So if it's math work, I might go up there and write down a problem and solve it for them and show them how the formula works or whatever. And then I'll sit down and they get up there like they're the teacher. And so I know once you're able to teach me this thing, we're good. I can go back to work and go about my business, right? The music, you mentioned music. I use like a reading channel, like on Spotify. And I wonder why it doesn't put me to sleep. It helps me focus, actually. But a reading music channel, I do that. And then, of course, you want to make sure you have a dedicated space. And something that you had mentioned earlier is having different dedicated spaces for different things. And we were talking about how kids get excited when they get to go to the library because they don't have to sit in the same classroom anymore. This is elementary school stuff, but and then they get to go to PE, so they're excited about that. And then they get to go to lunch, so they're excited about that. And so if you're able to have different areas around the house for your child or children, that's something that I think I'm going to try that. That's kind of a brilliant idea. But yeah, those are some of the things that I wrote down that have or have not worked for my home, and each child is different. So
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, oh, were you gonna say something?
No.
One of the things that I know I definitely don't do enough of, I really like the brain breaks, every 15 or 20 minutes. I think we need to just be aware of what our expectations are for our kids in this season. It's different for them, just like it's different for us. And one thing I'm learning with my kids is when I start to see things trigger, when I see them beginning to get worked up, when I'm realizing, oh, wait a minute, it is 2:30 and we haven't taken a nap, or I didn't get a chance to get lunch yet. Like just paying attention to those cues before we get all the way to 10. And I think that's what the quick, short, frequent breaks help with is let's do something before we get to that. Because once we get to 10, it's really tough to come back. And that's
it is.
A 7-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 47-year-old,
That's it.
And then I remember someone sent us a question. We went through a couple of questions that you got.
Yep.
How do I replicate the school day? How do I do this? And one of the things I want to consider is incorporating what you said. If essential oils work in your house, if breaks for one child more frequently makes sense, if working, standing up for a little while for one of your children works. Prime example, I have a standing desk at home now, which is something I bought since quarantine. And it definitely helps me with focus.
Okay.
We've been sitting in the house for weeks. So I just want us to give ourselves and our kids permission to be a little creative and, be supportive.
Because it's really about getting the work done, right? So like even at your job, like do you want a manager or do you want a leader? Somebody that's going to make sure that you get everything done, or somebody that's going to make sure that you're successful in getting the stuff done. And I think you really hit on something when you said let them be creative. Our children did Montessori school for a short period of time. I wish we could have afforded to keep them in there the whole 12, years, because it was all about allowing them to be creative and building on their strengths. And we have an opportunity to do that at home now, at least for a little while. So yeah, that's good. That's good. I appreciate that. Something that you mentioned earlier was you wanted to, and you already hit on it a little bit, but to be specific about self-awareness. You want to work on your children's self-awareness. You want to speak on that real quick?
Yeah. So one thing that I've done before with my oldest is we've taken like a personality test. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Enneagram. But there's so many different ones. I know Keith, you'll be able to share others. It's a quick 5-minute test. It's a free link. And it just gives you a little bit of information about your personality, how you think, learn how you communicate,
Yep.
the good and the bad.
The good and
And
the
so,
bad.
one of the things I can share is that I've learned that I am just a really enthusiastic, helpful person, right? I have a child that is, in Enneagram language, is an investigator and an individualist.
Mm.
So just imagine introvert versus extrovert. That might be the simple way of doing it. So I am just very visual, very colorful, very expressive, as you might have noticed. And, I have a child that is just not her personality. So, helping them understand who they are and that that's a part of who they are. And
Yeah.
just knowing that, right?
Yeah.
It's not good or bad, because sometimes you're going to have to do stuff you don't want to do, don't feel like doing, but at least we're on the same page, or just have, like you said, this emotional awareness. You said self-awareness, but I was thinking too, emotional intelligence.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
That rub you the wrong way. Think about, is that really a personality thing, or we really have something to argue about here?
Yeah. 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 I recently had my kids take the DISC personality test. That's a DISC. And there's 4 different personality types in this particular one. You've got the person that's the rule follower, which is the C, and you have the I, which is the that's the extroverted person that just is a people person. They just love people. That's all that matters to them, right? That's you. You have the and I'm going all out of order with these. You have the D, which is like the dominant personality. Like, I'm a taskmaster. All I care is that it gets done. I see people, I don't really care about them. I need to get this task done, right? And then you've got the S, the laid back person. That's me, like the high S, the laid back person that might seem passive and sometimes can be.
Right.
And when you know these different things about, and specifically talking about your kids, you kind of understand. Like, I used to think that my son was a certain kind of way just because he wanted to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
test me. But it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, wait, this kid. This is who he really is. Let me chill out. Let me step back from being dad. And the same thing with my daughter. And you're able to kind of, when you take these assessments and you're looking at each other's assessments, you're able to see the gaps and potentially see, like, okay, here's why this kid ticks me off when XYZ happens, right? Another level of that from an emotional standpoint is, and if you see any of my videos or you know anything about me, love languages. You've got to take the love languages test. They've got the love language test and there's all this stuff these are free assessments. You can get like paid ones that cost money, whatever, but all these are free assessments. We'll put all the links out there. But for your love language, you want to know what your child needs to feel loved. There's nothing worse. There's not a worse feeling, I don't think, than not knowing what your child needs and they get it from somewhere else and it turns into a childhood issue or something like that. So, but yeah, they got it for grown-ups. They got it for couples. They got one for teens, and then they've got one for like 9 to 12-year-olds. And I would, man, anybody that has kids, you've got to do it. And they need to know what your love language is, so they can intentionally show you that love that you need. So, but yeah, self-awareness, y'all. It's huge. People talk about it all the time, but we don't tend to. Well, I don't know of a lot of people that really engage in self-awareness, and that's why I'm always trying to push it. Always trying to push it, because whenever something comes up, if I ever coach somebody, the first thing I ask them is about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you haven't started there, then that's the problem until we can figure out what the real problem is. So anyway, But yeah, but she mentioned the Enneagram test. That's another good one. The Myers-Briggs. Some of you might have taken the Myers-Briggs personality test. That's another great one as well. But we'll put, again, all the links out there. Um, so yeah. But okay, so I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got these pods that are popping up. Some people are talking about the pod. So there's a couple different things going on. I'm supposing you've got the pods where people that are well-to-do, I would say, they're able to hire like a, I don't know, maybe it's a retired teacher or whatever, and they bring 4 or 5 kids together, and the parents, they pay all this money, and that's their school, like it's a private school. And then you have there are pods where, like, okay, we're going to use the school curriculum, but I'm going to bring these 4 or 5 kids over to my house, and maybe we'll have a tutor once or twice a week, and we'll pool our money together for that. And then you have, good luck, the parents that are working or not and trying to figure out how to be a teacher, and Common Core and all that stuff. So speak on that. As you sigh, speak on that.
Yeah, so I can tell you personally, I just believe there is going to be a need for support. I want support. I want other parents who are tackling this to talk to laugh with, to complain with,
Yeah.
to let me try this week, or okay, girl, you did the best you could. Have you ever considered trying this? So in my mind, when I think of a pod, I would love to meet with a group of women, men, parents who are trying to figure this out, just so we can figure it out. I
Right.
don't look like until we get started and know what we need.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of in terms of a pod. And then being a people person, I'm also very active in my child's school and PTA. I do
Yeah.
want to be able to support the parents who don't feel like
Hmm.
they have any options, any
Yeah.
support. So yeah, I want to know, how could we, I don't know, connect with those kids, those parents. What is the school doing? What would be useful things that PTA can do to support teachers
Yeah.
and students?
Yeah.
I mean, I would love anybody who listens, watches, to share even articles, stories about how people are doing this. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the one of the biggest blessings during this whole pandemic thing that we have had is we've had a couple of families that we've, to a certain degree, agreed that okay, we're going to self quarantine to a certain degree, right? So when we come together, our kids can still kind of play around and stuff like that because
I,
we've agreed to be safe, right? And I think those are the people that you have to find to be in these pods, like people that you're like minded with, and you'll still do the social distancing, but you'll be safe in that. And I think it could be hugely successful, um, but it's going to take some work to find that group of people.
yeah.
And and there's a couple out like even for us, I was talking to my wife and I was like, maybe we can hire a tutor
Mhm.
that comes once, maybe twice a week, and maybe we can get a couple other people to come over and
Right.
do that whole thing. And
Hmm.
because one of the issues that my wife was talking about is like folks get left behind. They can't afford to have a full-time teacher in their home.
Right.
And so we've got to figure out how to make sure that education gap does not become
Yeah.
yeah back where it was. So I encourage all of you out there, and please tell your friends too, like, hey, get a group of folks together, and so the kids can engage with one another. I mean, it's been months that they haven't really been able to just be with all their friends, and so it'd be nice to have like at least a small group of friends that they can kick the soccer ball around with or whatever between lessons. So, but yeah. Very good. Cool.
Okay. I think there was one more thing I wanted to share.
Mhm.
You mentioned something about quiet time quickens the brain or quickens intention, or what did you call it? Quicker.
Quiet time.
You said something. It was a term I hadn't heard before, but I was like, okay, I that. And what I'm thinking is, um, one thing that I've done for the last 2 or 3 years is I set an intention for the year, one word. And then from that one word, I have 3 specific goals that I'm developing or growing in over the course of that year.
Okay.
So, like I said, one of the parents' question was, how do I replicate what the school does? How do I engage my older kids in being a part of this process?
Yeah.
And when there is an opportunity to take some quiet time, when we start to teach our kids the importance of quiet time, getting to know yourself, the self-awareness,
Yeah.
and starting to set intentions and make that a practice and actually kind of live out these affirmations that we do every morning, then it kind of takes the pressure off on the taskmaster part of it, right?
Yeah.
So if we
Right.
set attention, if we sit down and have a family meeting and talk about, okay, how are we going to make this work, y'all? Like, what are 3 things that you would want to look forward to every week? Things that we can actually do. I actually was talking to my counselor this week and I was asking her about some suggestions. She was saying maybe do picnic lunches, maybe Tuesday and Thursday, do something a little different than Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Kind of like you mentioned, having these alternate spaces for those of us who have kids who need some variety and to switch it up. I mean, we have some kids who are going to be fine. They're focused. They're naturally self-motivated. They care about their grades. You don't have to, hey, they don't.
Yeah.
But kind of back to where I was going with setting an intention is letting them choose what that is and what that will look like for them. And so you can say, oh, okay, well, yeah, we probably could go swimming every other month or something. You've done this, this, and this. She also mentioned, like, for those of us who have artsy kids, or having an art or a craft be a reward. So they're going to get tired of this. This is going to get old, no matter how we figure this out, work it. So what are those things that we know motivate each child, which comes back to, the love languages and these different things that will
Absolutely.
express.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of speak to intentions and focusing more on those things and not I think we can get very frustrated and irritated on the tasks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And here's the thing though, it's coming, right? It's coming, and so we, like our coach right out there, she said, you always got to have a master plan, and I'm very curious to see what the software is going to look like that they use, and hopefully they'll standardize how they communicate homework. They won't Edmodo here and then something on the blog there, and like I hope they standardize a lot of stuff so you don't have to go searching for these different tools. And one of the things that I started to search, and I did not complete my search on this, but I was thinking about the people that want pods that you can't even, let's say you can't even afford to have a tutor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can't even afford computers. Like, what are they going to do? And I started to look it up, and I found one for internet in Xfinity. They actually have, I guess you can apply to get internet through them for like $9.99 or something like that a month, which is an excellent deal. And then there were some computer companies that I found, or companies or whatever, nonprofits that I found that I'll post for any of you that might know somebody that need laptops There's different places that they can go and I guess register to get laptops. And it's I don't want to get into the whole equity piece of education too
Mhm.
tough, but it's something that look, I encourage all of y'all to get involved in some form or fashion. We want to make sure that everybody's got an equal shot to get everything that's available to us,
Yeah.
and so so yeah, I'll put those. I'll put that information out there, and as I get more information about that, I'll make sure that it's shared as well.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, we got a grant writer in the house
Ooh.
that's willing to donate to sponsor a kid. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Purchase with
Thinking about
PTSA. Okay.
yeah, because there's a lot of COVID-19 money that has been out there and is out there, but yet it requires some grant writing and proposals. And I would really, I also still believe that local PTA is a great opportunity to stay connected with the
Yeah.
school, the administration. It's been an excellent experience for me. Um,
Yeah.
Staying connected with what's going on and the teachers and people knowing my child and helping us through.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, um, special needs kids.
Mm.
That's another thing that I wanted to research and share. Like, how are they going to do that for special needs kids? Like, what's that going to look like? Will they have pods that at the school, maybe outside of the school or something like that? But again, it's another. You want to make sure that that gap does not extend itself any farther than it already has. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree. I would love um, to find out how parents are managing that. I
yeah,
really would.
yeah. Another idea for pods and having somebody there might be recent college grad that you could get for cheap, or someone that is in grad school that kind of knows the ropes, and
Mhm.
and I'll research that to see if 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 and where what schools we might be able to pull those resources from, um, and also hire somebody maybe that doesn't look like you,
Hmm.
just to give your kid a different perspective. Now, if they already go to school and the people don't look like them, maybe you want to maybe hire somebody that does look like you. But
Yeah.
just to give your kid I mean, we have the opportunity to create our own situation to a certain degree. So take
Exactly.
advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Oh, and this is something that I maybe shouldn't say, but I'm going to say it anyway. When you're working and you have a kid that's like, loves their screen time, like games and whatever, take a chance to sometimes let them play.
Hmm.
Don't be so strict on them that it causes you stress on your job, which you need. And also, don't forget everything that they're going to be doing in the future has everything to do with screens. And I
Hmm.
know that there's science that says they don't need so much screen time, and I'm with that 100%. But at the same time, if it's going to keep your house sane, my advice as a life coach is to have a sane house. You can deal with the
Yeah.
screen thing a little bit later. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and
I would
and
go ahead, Keith.
you were talking about taking walks with them and that type of thing. One other thing that, or I guess there's a list of things, but we were never taught how to balance checkbooks
Hmm.
in school, and there's different little life skills that you now have the opportunity to teach your children or someone else's children. Um, so, but yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, to add to the screen time and making allowances for the things that our kids really just do enjoy doing because they've grown up in a different era than we have,
Mm-hmm.
is when we come back to setting intentions, if we talk about, hey, I know you like this show, this game. Here's what that's going to have to look like this school year. So I guarantee you that you can watch that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday by 4 o'clock. If you've completed this, and this,
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
might even have to have that argument. Or you tell me how many hours a day, would work. Let's negotiate. Like, once again, these are life skills. This is the type of conversation you would have to have with your boss. If you
Yeah.
had something, a big project and something going on with your family, like, let's make room for that.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
I mentioned too that works really well for me, from the youngest to the oldest, is setting timers. And this works for me too. I'm definitely ADD.
Oh, this is a huge one. It's a good one.
Yes. So, when I say, okay, y'all, it's time to get ready for bed, or we're about to have dinner, but they're watching something. They're not listening. They can't hear me. Okay, when is that show going to be done? How much time is left? 10 minutes. Okay. Set the timer on the oven for 10 minutes. You go set it. When that timer goes off, it's time to get in the tub. It's
Yeah.
time to transition to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a child that, and most children do, all of us do actually, really struggles with transition. I finally figured
Yes.
out that that's the issue, is transition. Any
Yeah.
transition from summer to school starting, from doing what you want to do to going to bedtime, that whatever that transition is, in my situation as a divorced mom, from one house to the next house, I have to make room for all the emotions and things that are going on whenever there's a transition.
Yeah.
So we get to start teaching them, here's ways that you can do that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
That's good. That's good. Right.
All right, Keith. It's been a
Yeah. 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 This is good stuff. I hope you guys out there have benefited from this song. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Coach Keith. I'm Keith Grace. And my handle there is Your Story Life Coaching. And my big thing is really self-love. Like, I love people. Um, and I don't get any more excited than when I see somebody like living their passions to live their purpose. And it has everything to do with knowing who you are so you can get where you're supposed to be. Because I believe we were all created for a reason. Not necessarily a season, but we were created for a reason. We do go through seasons. Um, and when you're walking in that reason or those reasons, man, amazing things can happen to you and through you, and it's all about what you can do for other people. So, and that's why I'm a life coach. So yeah. Hmm. All
yay.
right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you, and I thank you for doing this with me. Um,
It was
I
my
hope you had fun.
I did. I did.
Yeah. Very cool. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you all for joining.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people came and left and comments and all that. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for those of you that have sent questions in. Thank you for those questions. Um, we'll have to actually do a follow up on this with other stuff. We'll post all the good, hopefully good information that we share with you. And again, we are not experts. We're just parents that have gone through this thing and hope that we could maybe help somebody think through what to do better, different, or what not to do. So hopefully this was a benefit to you all. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful weekend.
Yes, it's Friday.
Yes, Friday.
Bye, Keith.
Thanks, you all. Hey, I want to thank you all for watching that. I hope you got some great nuggets of information that you could take with you during this 2020 school year as we go through quarantine and try to figure out how we're going to really partner with the schools to get these kids of ours educated while we're in this time of quarantine. Well, I want you all to be safe. If you found value in the videos, make sure you click the like button. If you're not a member yet of the Living Your Story family, go ahead and click that notification bell for me. And uh, also subscribe. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hey, have a great week. Good to see you. Coach Keith is out.